Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a little dose of reality.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Real Talk Rants. We have a great show tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and I appreciate you for joining the show tonight. As you're coming into the chat, please hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please share, subscribe, share with your friends, your families, and your neighbors, and everybody that's on these other platforms, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, or any of those other channels. Come over here, join the community, and join with other Doll fans over here so you can get your dose of reality. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank our sponsors, Canes Wear. And Canes Wear is located at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida. If you happen to be in town in Davie, Florida, or you live in Florida in that surrounding area, go ahead, go into Canes Wear, the store. I know the folks there. They're really good people. Go get your Dolphins gear or any other Florida teams gear. They have all their local Florida gear. University of Miami, Florida Marlins, all that good stuff over there at Canes Wear, and they'll take good care of you. All right, so let's get on with the show tonight. We got a good one, ladies and gentlemen. We have Curtis from Ace Per Head. If you haven't gone to his show, Ace Per Head, you are missing out on some good content. He's one of the best that I think content creators out there. He's been doing this for a while. He's very he takes a deep dive into the O-line. That's his specialty. He's an ex-college football player, played running back like me, although I wasn't in college. I played high school football. But you're going to enjoy this show tonight, guys. Curtis, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here, Steve. You're the first guy to invite me on, and the Dolphins community, I kind of felt like I was ostracized and on the outs. You're the first person to invite me on and to be part of the community, and I appreciate you. And I enjoy talking with you. I think you're a real guy. We do disagree on some things. We agree on a lot of things, but I don't care about that. What I care about is honesty, integrity, and being a real person. I think that's what you are. So I'm very grateful to be here.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And back at you, brother. So you actually traveled down to South Florida and you watched the game against the Buffalo Bills. So my first question to you is, tell me what you saw.
Well, there's two sides to it. What I first saw was my man PJ invited me down. I met him through my channel and through Twitter. And my wife and I went down to check it out, and the community there was amazing. Like, I've never been to a Dolphins home game. I was at Orange Bowl, like 97, but I'm a New Yorker, as you probably can tell. And so it would always be like Jets, you'd always see Jet Stadium and stuff like that. The fan base was unbelievable. I really felt more. I think I learned to be a better fan, to go there and to experience that, like the fan side. And so that was an amazing part. PJ was great. He had some friends there that were unbelievable. So that was the beautiful part. The stadium, if you have not been to the stadium, it is insane. It is something out of another planet. Whatever you think about Stephen Ross, love him, hate him, whatever, in between, whatever. The stadium is magnificent. I got to see the statue of Marino and the statue of Shul and the bobblehead of Marino, and it was truly like unbelievable. But the game itself, I've had an evaluation for a while, and I've kind of been stuck on the offensive line for a while, but it's not so much that's all I want to talk about, but it's such a focus because the floor of the team, and we've never had that in a proper format. And so for me, something that I've seen over the last couple of years is because this offensive line has been not so good, defenses have continually thrown stuff at us. Now, the Dolphins were able to keep this thing a game. There was some struggles, but we bounced back with a quick score, and then it was the turnover. And then once the turnover happened, I could see that the defenses playing nickels and pass and the linebackers playing high, they never left it. We had some very nice interior runs, but the problem was that it was all this gap motion runs. It was never on your face, straight drive blocking. And so it looked good, but they never got out of it, and they just kept sitting and sitting. And the pass game started getting constricted, and we kept going more to the edges. And you could feel it almost like it's like a mongoose versus a boa constrictor. We were hitting it, moving, popping these big runs, looking flashy, but you could slowly feel the Bills just wrapping around us. And the first pick was bad, but we kind of hung in there, but you just could feel it on both sides of the ball. We were pressed up against the line of scrimmage. We brought the blitzes, and they kept running inside and started popping them. And it was on the opposite side. We kept running, but they just kept playing deep leverage. Like if you watch a defense and for me, the keys to any kind of game, you watch the linebackers. What depth do they play? And what's their first step? So if you watch those two things, you understand what they think of your offense, because you'll watch a lot of teams, they'll come out and they start running the football, and that leverage is 3.5, 4 yards. And the first step is towards the line of scrimmage because they fear the blocking and the run game, or they're buying into the play action. With us, it was all 5 yards, read and react, or straight drop. And I think McDaniel, he was asked, why wasn't Tyreek and Waddle in? And he kind of mentioned it. So I kept seeing that all game, and it just got so ugly so quick. And it was a shame because those awesome fans that I saw, their hearts were broken. You could feel the energy. It was so powerful, so awesome. My wife was going crazy. I believed, even though I didn't believe because I knew it and what I was seeing, I still believed until you could see it slowly drain. And these poor fans, I kind of knew. I've kind of taken an evaluator standpoint since I've been doing this. But I was even feeling down. And it was so sad to see. And it's such a terrible thing because this is such a quick, easy fix and an obvious error. So that was my whole take on the game. I just felt so bad for fans. I'm one of them, but I kind of cut myself off. But I did become a fan, and I could feel it. I was screaming, "Come on, you son!" And I don't ever do that anymore. I watch the games. It's all rewind. I'm looking at stats and analytics. I'm trying to get to the truth. But I was so sucked in. And it just made me feel like I was a kid again, watching Dan Marino lose, watching Riggins run for the touchdown, watching, all this stuff. And it's been a while. Last time I felt that way was the last playoff game against the Ravens.
Right.
Where I really believed. I had my heart ripped out. But I knew kind of what was going to happen, but I still had my heart ripped out. So that was how I saw the game.
All right. Thanks, man. Yeah, sounds like you really, like you said, you felt like a little kid again. You know what? And when I go to those games, whenever I go to any football game like that, I feel the same way, man. I feel like I'm a little kid again, man. And I get emotionally involved in the game,
Oh, yeah.
But you can't help it, like you said, the crowd just sucks you in, everything. It's just the whole environment. So, yeah, for sure.
It's an amazing experience. It really is even the loss. My wife's like, I love this. She loves it. She's like, we got to go back.
Great. That's great, man. That's awesome.
Hey, Mr. Success, I see you. I've been clinically depressed since Thursday.
Yeah, I was definitely just gonna say, hey, Mr. Success, and I see Lo-Fi's in there, and everybody that's in the chat. I appreciate you for joining tonight. Make sure you hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It's free. So, Curtis, this is a couple things I wanted to ask you before we get into the meat and potatoes of what I really like to talk to you about, your expertise. The title of the show tonight is Mike McDaniel's gig up in Miami or over in Miami. Now, I didn't mean that in a sense that is he on the hot seat, or is he going to be fired after this year? That's not what I meant. What I meant is his gig as far as this offense is concerned. Has it been made out? Do you feel that way? I have a sense that I do feel like they've teams have finally, figured this offense out?
I take it from another perspective. So I like to view things from a coach's perspective. And I've talked to a lot of coaches when I was in college for a short little time. I always listen to them. I've always studied the psychology of coaching, and football at its very first point is schematic, philosophical, conceptual. It's always the starting point for everything. When you get to that final play to run for the touchdown, that's the end of all of that. And so when a DC and OC are going head to head, ready to battle, the very first thing they're both thinking about is the blocking and protection. The DC's thinking about it, and the OC's thinking about it. And, I kind of get dubbed, like the O-line channel and stuff. And I talk because it's everything starts from there. When you're in a pro or you're in college and you look over film, the first thing they look at is protection. When you're an OC and you want to throw the football, the first thing you think is, what drops can I do based on protection? You develop your game plan, your scheme based off what you don't go, I'm doing 7-step drops and you can only protect for 2 seconds, and it even goes to the running attack. What are you able to do with the skill sets and talents you have? It all starts there. And then the DC, he's looking at that too. He's saying, what do I need to do to get pressure that I want? How much do I have to commit? They don't want to commit. Blitzing is a risk. And some people are more risky than others. But if you could get what you wanted by rushing 4 and dropping 7, that would be your ideal situation. Conversely, a quarterback and an OC would want to have 5 guys blocking, holding all the pressure, and 5 guys in routes all day. And so these are the 2 perfect environments. And so you add more guys in to protect, you add more guys to blitz to get the situation into your favor. And so McDaniel and Tua and this team and this offense are all centered around the black hole that's the offensive line. Because it's like, why do we throw fast? Well, because Tua can't read and Tua throws his releases. No, partly. But if you gave him 2.6 seconds, he could do that as well. Problem is they can't block for that long. They can't run block. Right. We can't do inside zone. Look, there's if you go back to Dante Scarnecchia, who might be the greatest offensive line coach in the history of the game with New England. Every single week, those guys would man block, outside zone block, inside zone block, gap block. They would, and based on the defense, that defense had to study all those blocks because those guys could bring a table. All we could do is outside zone block. We can inside zone block. We do gap block, which is all the guys moving. Right. But that is like so flashy. It does not work on a consistent basis. If it's a piece of the puzzle, it works. So we are so pigeonholed by the talents of the offensive line. And this is why we throw fast. This is why we have to bring extra blockers in. So Mike McDaniel was a guy in the booth who was a run game coordinator, who he said, hey, Charlie, come on. You're our head coach. You're our OC. Hey, on top of that, you got to win now, and we're giving you bupkis for the offensive line. I mean, yeah, you brought Connor and Hunt in, and you had Tehran, who's in and out, but the other parts of the line and the depth was atrocious. And you could see as the injuries happened, and then year 2, it was worse. And then this year, I mean, I dubbed the 2021 offensive line the 45th best offensive line in football. This is not that bad, but it's about 39. And it's heading directly towards, it might even be worse than the 45th if Tehran goes down, which it looks like he might.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. He didn't have a good game at all. I mean, and you said
two bad games for him.
2 bad games. Yeah. You said it best on one of your, it was one of your podcasts. You said it best. He's breaking down, man. He's declining.
Oh, he's done. I think he's done, sadly.
I think he is. He had 4 injuries last year. He had surgery in the offseason. He was supposed to get surgery prior to even, before the season ended, but he opted to continue playing, and I'm sure that didn't help him at all.
Yeah. I just want to look at Lo-Fi. Lo-Fi says he can't throw the whole route tree. Mm-hmm. But look at Mayfield and Darnold. Neither can they. But look how good they're doing. So I think Tua, like, and this is what something you mentioned before. I do
Yes.
think Tua could be way more successful. My perfect offense for him is not this, and he could do more. The injury thing, that's a non-start. That's a non-starter if it doesn't work. But from a skill standpoint, I think he could be successful.
Yeah,
but he can't throw the whole route tree.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. So how do you think? All right, number one, and we'll get to the O-line. But number one, can Skyler? How do you feel Skyler can operate in this offense?
Nah, because he's gotten better at his like quick reads and quick throws, but his release is not fast. His in this offense, and I've gone through, like, I spent like multiple podcasts going over it.
Right.
Right. You've got to read quick or release quick or both, and he can't do either. And so this is going to force him. This is going to force the offensive line to have to be better. It's likely going to force more play actions, more screens, which are pass rush mitigation calls. It's going to constrict our offense. I don't think he's got a shot. I mean, he might be able to beat Seattle, maybe. I don't know, but I don't know.
Right. Well, remember, Seattle has that Mike McDaniel defense.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Not Tua getting hurt. Don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. But by Skyler starting, maybe this is a blessing in disguise that Mike McDaniel has to adjust and play a pro type offense.
Can't though with this offense. You can't. You can't. I mean, listen, just think about it. We're all Dolphins fans, and so easy to get. Who would in this NFL, in this league, be psyched to start Austin Jackson? Remember, I'm sorry, Austin Jackson. Look at his play over the last 2 weeks when he didn't have Connor and Hunt, the big brother.
Hey, let me interrupt
Eichenberg, Cotton, Brewer. I mean, even Brewer.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Sorry. Hold that thought. No, you're good. Hold that thought, because you're cooking, man. You're cooking. But hold that thought. Let me play something. Just a reminder.
Tight end and offensive line could just be justified as more positions of need. Was this guy significantly higher on your board than any of the tight ends or offensive linemen available?
You know, when we do our board, we go through it, and there were a lot of good players that were picked too, you know, ahead of those. So we look at every position, we go through it. You know, I think you guys are probably more worried than we are, you know, in terms of, you know, at the position depth at those spots you talked about. But at the end of the day, we added a good football player. We're happy. And like we said, you know, the draft, it doesn't end with the draft.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, he was talking about the O-line when he threw that in our face, insulted us, and said, we're more worried about it than you are. I mean, we are
with the laugh.
And the laugh is what gets me, man.
And he knows Mike McDaniel was just like, he didn't say anything. He's like, he knows.
Yeah, he knows. But honestly, you know, and I like Mike McDaniel, but he's got to develop a backbone. And I'm afraid, like you said earlier in the podcast, you know, he was hired. He was an offensive coordinator, or not offensive coordinator, a running back,
run game coordinator,
and he was sitting in the booth. No experience of offensive as an offensive coordinator, as calling his own plays. He was brought in here, and he was handed chicken shit.
Yeah. Remember what he said? Remember they asked him, he wasn't plan A. Nobody else wanted the gig that was even like remotely of any kind of gravitas. And he says, well, you never know when you're going to get this shot, so you better take it.
Yeah, exactly. So getting back to the O-line, before I rudely interrupted you.
No, you didn't interrupt me at all.
You were talking about Austin Jackson and
nobody listen. Nobody in the league would be like, yeah, I got Isaiah Wynn. Eichenberg. Dude, we went last year with Eichenberg as a backup center. He'd never played it before. This year we got Meyer, Cotton, Jones, who doesn't even fit the system. He could be a right guard for an inside zone drive blocking scheme. And he could, maybe be an average starter. But why would you even bring him back when he doesn't fit the scheme? Austin Jackson, $12 million a year. Totally insane. Either Chris Grier smells his own farts and he thinks they're roses, or he's insane, or it makes no sense. There's nobody, like every DC calls the same thing. Nickel, high leverage, pass coverage, don't blitz. What that says is every DC who does that goes, your offensive line sucks. And everyone calls it. So it's a consensus.
Yeah. They only blitzed 3 times in the Buffalo game.
What does that say? And so Chris Grier is either insane. I don't know what he is. I don't know. He lets Van Ginkel walk. He doesn't want any part of Van Ginkel, but he gives Jackson $12 million. But remember, his father too undercut Carroll in New England and said, if my guys were only on the field more, they would have succeeded. There was that whole thing then, and Belichick finally fired him. It's the same thing. There's something wrong with him mentally. I mean, how do you let Hunt walk? The whole league saw interior offensive linemen and interior defenders were key because we were moving away from fun ball to pass balance. Everybody saw it except Chris Grier. He bet against his 2 best picks and lost, and then missed the market. Yeah. It's unconscionable. He's incompetent.
It's malpractice.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
Malpractice. Yeah. It's definitely malpractice. So, since we've talked about the O-line and everything, well, what can we do to fix that? What can we do to mitigate for the rest of the remaining season?
The only thing you could do to mitigate it is, major problem, penalties. When you were at the game, we've had penalties, stupid penalties, and we'd have to be consistent. So you have to be willing to run that football, play the short game, and matriculate yourself down a field and set things up later. Like if you look at Shane Gailey, I studied Shane Gailey a lot. He was he really taught me so much about how to be an OC in the run game. And you go back and you watch him with the Dolphins, he would run the football even if he got 2 or 3 yards. And you're like, that's stupid. But what it was, it kept the game moving. And he set things up later on in the game. But he also understood that if I keep running the football, my defense won't be gassed. And maybe it doesn't pay the biggest dividends this game, but as the season progresses. And when DCs are looking, they still got to prepare for it, even if you're getting 2 or 3, because now he's running inside zone, he's running outside zone, he's running gap zone. I got to prepare for this because I can't lose for that. And it keeps building. And he would get a couple of big runs. He would get those linebackers creeping because they're like, hey, you know what? Once in a while they pop it for 4. Once in a while they pop it for 5. But there's a patience. But he was a seasoned vet. He was a master. And I think that's one of the reasons why I got so angry is because Dolphin fans were led astray by some really bad media guys saying that Gailey was trying to sabotage Tua. This guy protected Tua better than anybody. He dialed up about 5 or 6 plays that won us games. He had nothing. Austin Jackson, a tackle. He had Davis, I think, in there. I can't remember.
Jesse Davis.
Jesse Davis. Howard was pretty solid. I think he had that one guy to UDFA we had, but he understood. And, Fitzpatrick was able to manage it as well, but he was a vet too. But McDaniel needs to see the big picture. He needs to be patient. Unfortunately, there's another negative that I saw. Our interior D-line is not stout enough to stop pass balance run attacks.
Yeah.
You have this. We can't play the patient game so much because we can't handle it on both sides of the ball. And so it's a very, very, very difficult thing for us to get through this.
Yeah, Grier is completely he's just screwed this whole organization up, man. He's been here since 2016. He's been involved in scouting or whatnot, one way or the other since 21 years. You know, and I what's your take on Ross? Do you feel he wants to win? I'm being the devil's advocate here because I've heard a lot of different folks that have come on our network here in our podcast and said he doesn't want to win, and all this kind of stuff. And what's your take on Ross? Do you think what do you think his next move should be, and does he want to win?
Well, the problem is that he was a very, very successful businessman. He tried to bring the business model and be an owner that imposes the business model on a Warriors sport. There's obviously business involved. But if you go back, he even said this, him and Parcells, a conversation. He never got Parcells to sign an extension because he felt intimidated by him. And then Parcells viewed that as he wanted to get rid of him, and that's why he left. Not saying it would have been good for Parcells to stay or not, but if you notice, he always has problems with the Warrior type. He likes the bookwormy, the business style guy. So he wants to win. He just doesn't understand how to win in the football environment because he interferes and he gets people that are not willing to say no. Like Chris Grier. I like Chris Grier when he took over, and Ross was like, if I keep doing this, is like, it's over and over again. It says definition of insanity, and they're going to build young and get draft picks. But when he started interfering with Flores, he never said, hey, look, no, I'm willing to lose my job. This is not happening. No. He's all, whatever you want, Steve. They're both weak. He hires weak people because he wants the power, but he does want to win. He could easily win. At this point, it's a little hard because I think a lot of top coaches and football minds won't come here with him because he's betrayed so many people and he's got such a dubious record, which is sad because he really is. I talked to some people that I met there, and they told me personal stories of Steve Ross, how he's a legit fan of the team and how he did legit awesome stuff for these people. But it's like it's the hubris. It's a tragic hero. He can't get out of his own way.
Yeah, that's
just my take.
No, and that's a good point. That last point you said, he can't get out of his own way, and this is what I had my concerns, and I did a podcast about this, although I didn't get in depth in it, but my podcast was about Stephen Ross because he's moved down to South Florida now, and what area, and I was saying, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing that he's down there? And I kind of thought it was a good thing because I felt that maybe he would light a fire to Chris Grier's butt. But I was wrong.
He doesn't know football, so he doesn't perceive. So, I mean, I'm nobody. I don't really try to think of myself as an intellectual football mind. I just understand basic tenets. And I've played to a certain level. I've also been a fighter, and I've been worked physical. I understand the physicality that's attached to these fundamental concepts. And I told you, like in the thing, I hold to it like Rain Man, but he doesn't understand it. And Chris Grier, by the way he drafts, oddly enough, he doesn't understand it either. And so you have these guys whose hands have never had calluses. They've never been in a fist fight, most likely. They've never played the game, and so they don't understand what it takes. And so they view it, in this sterile, intellectual, business-like environment, and that's not what football is about, especially now with the transition to the new cycle of pass balance.
Yeah, he just and it all boils down to what you said. He doesn't have the vision because he's never got his hands dirty.
Nope.
So he doesn't have the vision. How this game is evolving, and it doesn't just, and it goes back, basically, it's always going to be fundamentals, right?
Always.
And
you got to take care of them first.
You got to take care of the fundamentals first. And I'm a boxer, so when you're boxing, fundamentals is first thing, man. Footwork, throwing your basic punches, that kind of stuff, maybe when you have the fundamentals right, you get that straight. Maybe you throw in an overhead right or something, but yeah, you gotta start at the trenches. And I don't know. I was kind of convinced earlier the last couple of years. I felt, well, maybe this is the way, and I'm no visionary by any means, and never played at a high level of football, just high school. But I said, well, maybe the offenses don't have to be, that good. Maybe the trenches don't have to be that good, and the new wave is the passing game, and maybe the quarterbacks just have to release that ball in 2.5 seconds. Maybe that's the way the NFL is going. But from what I understand now, what you're saying is no, we need to go back to those fundamentals, build the team from the trenches out, not from the outside in. And I think that's what's lacking here from what I gather now and understand in the Miami Dolphins football organization. And it all starts with Grier.
Oh yeah, he's incapable. So he looked at San Francisco and said, "Hey, they don't really need a great line. Let's kind of do the same thing." But he doesn't understand. It's horrible. I hate to say it because it makes me sound pretentious, but he doesn't understand offensive line construction. Like if you go look at San Francisco's construction, he tried to get Tehran to match Trent Williams. Trent Williams is a Hall of Fame who's never been injured, but you could see a parallel there. But if you look at the rest of the guys on the squad, they're able to inside zone drive block. That means straightforward blocking. They're able to the zone stretch where they stretch out the zone. And then, you can break it back. And then they're able to gap block, move block. And then they can do some screens and they can pass block, all of it reasonably well. And what that says is when you can use all these different blocking schemes and attack defenses in any way at an average level, then you can affect the defense because every defense has a weakness. But if you look at our defense, our offensive line, Tehran is not a drive blocker. Trent Williams is, but Tehran's unbelievable. When in his prime, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But then you go down, Wynn. He was our big guy. Can't drive block. And he's small and oft injured. Connor was perfect. Hunt was perfect. But then you replaced him with Eichenberg, who's terrible. Watch Eichenberg walk around. The pants by his butt hangs. And you'll say, what are you looking at his butt for, Curtis? Because your hips and keister and legs is where the power comes from. He has no power. He's confused. He's scared. Jackson, nice guy, big guy. He can't drive block. He doesn't know exactly what he's doing. You got Meyer who can't drive block. You got Jones who can drive block, but he can't zone block, and he's not agile enough. And so
how about Brewer?
Brewer's destroyed on power. He's unbelievable for him to get to the second level. But when he gets there, what does he do too often? He does. And then all you do is you watch. There's a couple times we had some nice gap runs and it looked like a nice, but he's like hanging on for dear life. And you'll say, well, he got the playoff. In the NFL, your weakness will define you. You could be a receiver who can run a fly route and you're fast, but not on the offensive line. Not on the defensive line or as a linebacker if you're expected to play. If you're an every down player, you cannot have a fatal flaw. It will get exposed. It's just now you could mitigate that if you understood offensive line construction. You would take Brewer there and you put two hulking guards next to him who could handle power to offset his flaw. But you flanked him by a guy who can't move, and you wanted Wynn, who's got no power. Eichenberg's got no power. Cotton's got nothing. So it's like you're accentuating his weakness. And so to me, it's terrible for me to say because it does sound pretentious. But if you look at it and you understand how to construct the offensive line, it's like insane. It's incompetency at the highest level.
Right. So how, again, it goes back to how can they mitigate this? How can they fix this line now? How can they, and I guess what you're saying is they can't do anything about it right now because we're stuck. It is what it is. We're stuck with who we have.
Because then you bring in Lamb. Lamb can't drive block. He can pass block, and he's old. If he gets too many reps, he'll break down.
Well, he's retiring next year too.
Yeah, he's already done. Paul, you want to put Paul in? Paul's not ready. You could ruin this kid. You could. If you look at Jackson and you look at Eichenberg, they could have been better off if they weren't rushed in and put in positions. Look, when he was drafted, Eichenberg drafted as a tackle. The guard he was drafted as a tackle. The staff evaluated him as guard, but then they somehow had to force him into tackle. And then Jackson was brought into guard. He wasn't allowed to stay in one spot. We moved him all over the place. And it's because there's a battle between staff. Remember last year's offensive lineman, he wanted Jones to start over Eichenberg. And you put in that little thing there. Remember the quote from Grier? Oh, I was sitting there and a GM came up to me before the game, goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I can't believe Eichenberg's. He was doing so good for you." And I'm like, either you don't know this guy's pulling your chain, or you're lying, or you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, so we screw guys over by setting them up with bad framework. You could look at Flores, it was done to him. You could look at McDaniel, it's done to him too. Almost every single guy is, pretty much put in bad settings.
Yeah. Here's a good point.
Yeah, he did.
Lo-Fi. Yeah, Hunt he was a guard. He was drafted as a guard and ended up playing right tackle. So yeah, exactly. And the reason why we brought Armstead in is because of Jackson.
Yeah.
Right? And he couldn't play that left tackle position. I think they even tried him at guard, and then they ended up moving him at right tackle. And they gave him an extension of $11 or $12 million. Well, what does that tell you?
Oh, that's insane. Nobody would have paid that.
Yeah.
Very overpaid.
That's ridiculous. So, they let Hunt walk. Now, was he going to be an all-pro? Maybe not, but he was solid, And I've said this again. I'm no offensive line guru, and tell me what you think, Curtis. All I said was you don't need an all-pro offensive line. All you need is some solid guys across the line, And what we got are freaking Eichenberg, who should be in probably playing, I don't know, the XFL.
He's a practice squad guy. He's a practice
squad guy. And then you got Lester Cotton, a practice squad guy. Austin Jackson, he may be a backup in most teams.
He would definitely be a backup. NFL. Yeah.
Yeah. And Armstead is washed. Let's face it, guys. He's not the same Armstead that he was.
Sadly, I love that guy. I love that guy.
I do too. I mean, he's a dog,
with Tehran, what they thought when they hoped is that he could be the block alone left tackle, so all the help could flow down the line of scrimmage. And when he was healthy, that's what they did. And then you'd have Connor and Hunt that would help external. And those three guys were able to maintain some semblance of consistency. When guys got injured, obviously it would fall apart and stuff. But it's key to have that one tackle that could do it on. He can't do it anymore, though. Sadly, he didn't practice in preseason, and he looked bad week one. Allen really had him in week one, and he looked bad in week two. He was terrible in week two.
Terrible.
And now he's injured.
Here's a good comment by Mr.
Any word on him? Is there any word on him with his injury?
On who?
Tehran?
I would be lying if I told you I knew. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. The last time I heard that he was day to day, that's the last that I heard. I don't know what. To me, that means he's probably not going to play.
That's scary.
But we'll see. Mr. Success says, I wonder if Mike would draft some O-linemen high next year if they let him choose the pick. Go ahead, answer that, Curtis.
Well, it's that you want to knock on McDaniel, and again, I could check the video. I said this. Zach Tom was in our building, and I pounded the table for Zach Tom. Zach Tom was like the easiest pick that I've seen over these last, since Grier's taken over. It was such an easy pick. We could have had him in the third and the fourth round. Look what Zach Tom is doing on Green Bay. And we took easy, and McDaniel's like, I demanded we take easy. And I was like, oh man, I don't know. Maybe there's not, but if we had Zach Tom on his team, he could have played center, guard, tackle, anywhere. But I don't think anybody has a real clue about the offensive line. It's hard. It's not easy to draft these guys.
Right.
But when you got a guy like Zach Tom who's smart, measurables that hadn't been seen for 30 years, and you are starving, I think they didn't draft him because they didn't want Eichenberg and Jackson to be on the streets. I think they're too invested. And, if you look at all the top offensive lines, it's about finding guys in the 3rd to 7th round. Every time you find a guy in those rounds and they contribute, even as a good backup, the potential for your team skyrockets, and we don't do that.
Yeah.
And he would have been an unbelievable pick. And McDaniel passed. And Grier.
Yeah, so that's why I say McDaniel, you know, is an accomplice to this as well, I think.
Yeah.
He really is.
In a way.
You know, in a way he is.
He needed a good GM.
Yes.
That said, hey, coming in, kid, you don't have to win right away. I'm not going to go get Tyreek and we got to win now. We're going to develop you, get you where you need to be. And for an OC who's struggling to build game plans and schemes, I'm going to build you an offensive line to lower the difficulty level. You know, so you had Waddle. You go get Hill. But you can't stack this. Basically, you forced McDaniel to go this route. But if you gave him, I'm sorry, keep going.
You did. No, I was going to say you forced him to go this route because, you know, I mean, you paid Tyreek all this money.
And Waddle.
You know, and Waddle. You know, so can you
imagine?
Draft picks and money. Draft picks and money. You know? And that's a problem. So I don't see, unfortunately, I've been a fan of this team since 1969. And I just don't I don't see them at this point getting too far. That's just my feeling. I don't see them getting too far this year. I really don't.
No, this year, no. But if you look at it from like an evaluation positive standpoint, like Mr. Success was saying, so you crap out this season, you get a bunch of good picks that are low, and you pick the right offensive lineman, then you might set yourself up. But you have to ask yourself, are they going to pick the right offensive lineman? Is it going to gel fast enough? And why should somebody that incompetent get another job? But they're going to. He should be fired. But they're coming back. McDaniel's coming back. Grier's coming back for years. I think Grier will be here for 2 or 3 more years, probably. I don't think Ross will get rid of him.
So you don't think if they go down like 7-10 that you don't think that's gonna
you look at it from Ross's standpoint, he gets very uncomfortable changing his environment. He likes to interfere. If he struggled to get a head coach, remember, he couldn't even find a GM. He had to take Hickey for a stopgap because nobody wanted to work here.
Wow.
And then he screwed Hickey the next year. And then he brought in Tannenbaum and Grier and whoever else. So he can't get any. I don't know if anybody will work with them.
Yeah, man, we're in a pickle, man.
Yeah. So I think as long as Ross is here, you'll have Grier and McDaniel, and what they'll do is if we don't do well, then all the media that wants to do the hopium thing. Well, it was a down season. They know what's wrong now. We got all these picks, the high picks. We're going to target it. And the next year's our year. And everyone's go, yay. And maybe it is. But, given the history, Louis Riddick wouldn't come here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think
he would never come here.
Yeah, I don't think he would either. You made some great points, man. Let's see. What did Dobbs said? Did any media ask McDaniel why he burned 2 critical timeouts in the first 10 minutes of the third quarter? McDermott had him spinning. Man.
It's too much for him. I think he's overloaded. He looks like he's burning out.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the guy. And that's the thing. I think that you look at Tua, you might not think he's the greatest quarterback, but this whole framework has done nothing to make him better, really better. I mean, stat padding better. Same thing with McDaniel. All these guys are reliant on the GM setting the table for the talent, for the scheme, for the consistency. And so they're all getting ramming,
Yeah, I agree. Cap says, Cap for life. How you doing, brother? And again, I want to welcome everybody that's in the chat. Tonight, I see T. Dobbs is in there. Belinda Griffin, thank you for joining.
I know
Low
T.
Fight-
I know T. From a long time back. He shows up in comments every now and then.
All right, great. And I know you know Cap for Life. Everybody who
Yep.
doesn't know Cap for Life. I call him. He's the Cap Report.
I think he's
Cap
got clones with all the stuff he puts out.
You might. Yeah. He said Pat Riley saved Chris Bosch from himself. When is enough for Grier in a Super Bowl window year? Yeah, well, I don't know if this year, I never believed that this year was a Super Bowl window year. I thought last year was our best chance because of the folks that we had on. We had Hunt, we had Connor Williams, although he got hurt.
Wilkins, yeah.
Yeah, Wilkins. I was really upset about AVG. Look what he's doing in Minnesota right now.
That's insane.
That's
Just
crazy.
imagine if you swapped out AVG for Chubb. It was like so obvious.
Yeah.
The only reason he came back is Fangio goes, "Hey, come on back."
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. But what did T Dobbs say here? He says a respectful Bills fan here to the right, guys. All right, man. Hey, no problem, brother. Appreciate you coming in, man. We're all fans of our team and diehard fans of each of our teams, so nothing wrong with that. But anyway, yeah, man, it's not looking good for. How about Tyler Huntley? What's your take on him?
Well, he's like Skyler Thompson, but he's got the salt, the experience. He's a better version of him. But I'm going over the film now. When he had success, he had one of the best offensive lines in football. You go back to 2022. I think that was the last year he had. Yeah. So, but he's not a quick delivery guy. He can though sometimes. He can.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I don't think that with this offensive line, any quarterback could have real sustained success because even look at Dan Marino. We all love Dan Marino. What happened in the San Fran a Super Bowl? They played him normal. He went down the field and scored a touchdown. They said, enough of that. They rushed 3 and 4 guys. They had one linebacker and the rest were DBs, and they played pass coverage, and he couldn't do anything. On the other side, Montana threw the football and ran it up like poop through a goose, and he ended up with like 200 and something yards on the ground. Mm-hmm. So if Dan Marino is going to get stymied by a pass-focused defense, then what chances do any of these other guys have? Every one of these guys are talented. Even like Eichenberg, you laugh at him. This guy was a star in college. So you can't just – football is not about, I'm doing this and taking this. Maybe once in a while. Most of the time is take what you're given, and then you force them into a situation where it's not good for them, and then you take. So, but they're saying, hey, look, you're all about passing. You've invested all of these pass assets. So, you know what? We're going to stop the pass. We'll stop the edge runs. Do your little movement blocks inside, pick a here and there. But when we want, we'll just clamp it down, get you in 3rd and long, and then we'll sit up pass. So I don't see how anyone can really have a framework for success.
Yeah.
I think he'll be better. He offers an opportunity, but look at all the pass numbers. Mahomes. I mean, the only guy who's really rocking and rolling is Carr, but it's more the running game. I mean, nobody's really balling out like it was in the early 2000s or even a couple of years ago, throwing 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Nobody's doing that because the defenses, the cycles figured it out. So you got to be pass balanced. So if Mahomes ain't doing it, Mahomes is getting by with not winning games. His team's winning, and he's a piece. Allen, piece. All these guys, pieces.
Yeah. But don't you see a similarity in some of these quarterbacks? They're very mobile, and they can run. They can run out of the pocket and create and go off script. You think that makes a difference if we were to have a quarterback like that? And even in this offense, as the way that it's constructed.
Yeah, it's a nice asset. It's a good asset. But, you look at Mayfield's having success, Darnold's having success, Purdy's having success. Before this, Breeze and Brady had success. I mean, Brady won a Super Bowl a couple years ago. The guy can't move. He's like a statue. So it's really about you have a set of skills for your quarterback. How do you accentuate that? 2 is a semi-mobile guy who can climb the pocket well and escape. But he's kind of short. He can't throw the outs, but he's got elite release. So you could do play action. What is a play action? Play action, legitimate play action, is where the guys take the step forward, you play act, and then they don't see the football because you turn when you go under center. We can't even go under center because the center will get blown up. So you got to put him in shotgun. So you come under center, you play action, you turn your back, and then you stop and release. And this quick release allows you to get the ball in before the safety and the linebacker can get back to coverage. It's what we're doing here, except it doesn't have to be at 2.15 seconds. So Tua can have a whole host. He can work on legitimate play action rollouts. He can work off a real run game. He can throw these. If you look at his velocity at certain throws, they're exceptional, just not at the outs. But you can't have a defense sitting in nickel pass coverage, high leverage, and no blitzes. You know what I'm saying? You just can't do that. He doesn't have the skill. Nobody really can. It's not. Some guys will win in that environment, but not consistently. So
I get it. I get it. And you've opened my eyes to a lot of things that I've never really thought of. And, you know, and I appreciate you, Curtis, for coming on. This is why I had you on. I hope
my big mouth.
No, you're great. You're great, man. But this is why I had you on. You know, you articulate this a lot better than I do. You know, you played at a high level in college.
No, a little bit. It was a walk on. Man. Don't
Either way, you played.
I went against Division I guys. So
there you go.
You know,
so again, before I sign off tonight, though, I do want to say this. Tua Tagovailoa was put on the IR. I think that was the best.
He was. Decision. I was out all day. I didn't get any Dolphin information. I just walked in and got on your show. Really, IR.
So he's on the IR. He'll probably come back. And it's still tentative that he will come back. The Arizona Cardinals game, but I just wanted to say that they made the right decision there. You know, putting him on the IR. I think give him time to rest, recover. You know, maybe. You know, think this through, what he wants to do, him and his family, because it's bottom line, it's between him and his family and the medical doctors. But I do pray for his quick recovery.
100%.
You know, 100% is right, man, because I know you've probably had concussions. I've had concussions.
I'm suffering from stuff now, man, because of it.
Yeah. So it's a serious thing, guys. So, you know, he's definitely in our thoughts. So, Curtis, I appreciate you, brother, for joining me tonight, and I also appreciate everyone else that came in the chat tonight. I hope you guys got educated. I know I did. I always do when I bring Curtis on. But I'm gonna have you on more often, Curtis. I love collabing with you.
Yeah,
this
same
is
here,
what it's
brother.
all about. This is what it's all about. You know. Content creators coming together. We may have disagreements or whatnot, but I'm
married. I know all about that.
There you go. But I respect all opinions. You know, whether I agree or disagree with them, and I hope that you know, we're all humans. You know, we're gonna make mistakes. We're not perfect, but my wish in this Dolphin community is that we may not always agree everything Miami Dolphins. But there's one thing we can agree on, and that's we are all Dolphins here. So with that, guys, I'm going to sign off tonight, and God bless.
Thank you, everybody.